drivers in the NASCAR garage have started using a strange word to describe Shane van Gisbergen. Not fast. Not talented. They are describing his footwork as something closer to illegal feeling muscle memory, a trick so foreign to the modern Cup field that veterans say it would take them until retirement to get even 10% as good at it. And now there are whispers coming out of the NASCAR garage that the rulebook itself might be rewritten to neutralize one single driver from Auckland, New Zealand. The numbers behind that fear are difficult to argue with. Shane van Gisbergen has now won 8 of his 16 career Cup Series starts on road and street courses, a 50% win rate. That places him 1 victory behind Jeff Gordon, the all-time road course king, who won 9. The gap in efficiency is enormous. Jeff Gordon needed 47 starts to reach 9 wins. Shane van Gisbergen has reached 8 in only 16. He has won 6 of the last 7 road course races, and he has done all of this after being a full-time Cup Series competitor for barely 1 season. To understand why this matters, you first have to understand how the rest of the field drives. Modern Cup drivers brake with their left foot. The next-gen car uses a sequential-style transmission that does not really need a clutch to change gears, so the left foot simply lives on the brake pedal at all times. It is clean, it is simple, and it is what nearly every driver in the garage has trained on for decades. Shane van Gisbergen does not drive that way. He brakes with his right foot, and at the same moment he rolls his foot sideways and blips the throttle with the edge of his shoe while his left foot operates the clutch. That technique is called heel toe. It is as old as motorsport itself, the kind of footwork that was standard at NASCAR road courses until roughly 30 years ago, back in the era of drivers like Ricky Rudd, Bill Elliott, and Rusty Wallace, before clutchless transmissions arrived and made it unnecessary. When asked to explain the secret, Shane van Gisbergen has consistently treated it as nothing remarkable. It's normal to me. I always write foot brake and heel toe. It's what I've grown up doing. I only started left foot braking last year in a rally car. To him, the technique is simply how a car is supposed to be driven. So why is it such a significant advantage? The answer comes down to 3 mechanisms working together. The first is rear tire protection. By feathering the clutch on corner entry, Shane van Gisbergen disconnects the engine's braking drag from the rear wheels for a fraction of a second. That means no driveline shock loading the rear tires in the middle of a corner. While the rest of the field is cooking their rear rubber, his stays fresh. Dale Earnhardt Jr. broke this down in detail on his podcast, explaining that he's got his foot on the clutch. And so when he starts to feel the rear tires trying to get time, like the engine braking trying to drag the rear tire or even induce wheel hop, he will modulate the clutch just slightly to dampen the load on the drivetrain. The second mechanism is rotation. Shane van Gisbergen uses the clutch to help the car pivot into the corner, something he described himself when discussing his supercar's background. As he reached the brake zone, the clutch would be out as you turned in, and it would help the car to turn. The rest of the field is simply pushing the brake pedal. He is adding an entirely separate input that helps the car rotate. The third mechanism is throttle response. Heel toe matches the engine revolutions perfectly to the gear he is dropping into. There is no lurch and no upset to the car's balance. He exits corners as though the car is on rails, which is the detail that makes other drivers take notice. The most striking part is that he is frequently achieving all of this without driving at the absolute limit. His Trackhouse racing teammate rookie Connor Zeilish described exactly what he sees when he follows him. "You never see him slipping tires," Connor Zeilish said. There's times where, like out of turn 6 into turn 7, everybody else is getting to wide open throttle and he's not even getting to wide open. Just little things like that where he doesn't push the car beyond what it needs to be pushed. Here is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The driver at the center of all this attention does not believe the technique is the reason for his success. Shane van Gisbergen has openly downplayed it. "I don't think it is a big advantage. Of course I'm going to say that, but it's all I've known," he said. He then explained the real reason he developed the habit in the first place. In a supercar, the lock differential forced him into the technique. He had to run so much rear brake to make the car turn that he needed the clutch to control the rear lock in the brake zone. But in this next-gen Cup car, you don't need to because the diff is open. So you don't really have rear locking because you can run so much more front brake bias. In other words, in his own assessment, the clutch trick is a bonus rather than a necessity in the current car. That complicates the entire narrative because it raises a real question. Is it the feet or is it simply the driver? Whatever the answer, the rest of the field has not been able to copy it, and not for lack of access. NASCAR runs an open data system called SMT. Every team in the garage can study his brake traces, his throttle inputs, all of it. They can see precisely what Shane Van Gisbergen does. They simply cannot do it themselves. The reason is structural. Practice time is limited to an hour or less on most weekends, and open testing is essentially banned. There is no realistic way to rebuild 15 years of muscle memory between a Friday practice session and a Sunday green flag. The list of failed attempts is long and includes some of the sport's best. Joey Logano of Team Penske began the Watkins Glen weekend planning to right foot brake, then bailed out of it during practice. His teammate Austin Cindric even ran a Supercars wildcard in Adelaide partly to drill the craft and still could not bring it back to the Cup car. Shane Van Gisbergen's own Trackhouse racing teammate Ross Chastain gave up as well. "My feet are on the wrong pedals when I do it his way," Ross Chastain said. "I've learned my way, and at 33, it's tough. I can do it intentionally for like a corner or three, and then I get to the next corner, the next lap, and I go back to my way. It's just muscle memory." Kyle Larson, a driver who has won in nearly everything he has ever raced, was equally blunt. "He's way, way, way better than us at the road course stuff," Kyle Larson said before adding, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks. There's zero chance I can learn how to do that." Kyle Busch tried it in a production Camaro at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course during a Chevrolet event and ran half a second slower than with his normal style. "I know how to do it, and I can do it, but it's very clunky," Kyle Busch said. He had also told reporters earlier if I tried to learn what he's doing, it would take me until I retire. Then there is Denny Hamlin, who is perhaps the most interesting figure in the entire conversation. Denny Hamlin actually used right foot braking earlier in his career and won the Mexico City race roughly 20 years ago using it. Even so, going back is not an option for him now, and he doubts the next generation will adopt it either. "It's going to be really hard," Denny Hamlin said. "I just don't see anyone coming up the ranks that are volunteering to learn that style and stick with it. When the field can see exactly what the leader is doing and still cannot replicate it, that is not a skill gap. That is a chasm." This is the situation that has the garage talking about rules. It is important to be precise here. NASCAR has officially announced nothing of the sort. The sanctioning body issued its 2026 technical updates in November 2025, and those updates focused on 750 horsepower short tracks and A-post flaps. There was nothing in them about the pedal box, the clutch, or the differential. Everything beyond that is garage speculation rather than confirmed reporting. Still, the speculation has a basis in history. NASCAR has long managed what it calls competitive parity. When Hendrick Motorsports figured out truck arm suspension geometry in the early 2000s, the rules changed. When a dominant car became too strong on intermediate tracks, the rules changed. When a manufacturer started winning too much, the rules changed. That pattern is why 3 theories are now circulating in the garage. The first theory is a spec pedal box. Currently, teams have some freedom in how their pedals are arranged and spaced. A standardized regulated pedal box with fixed spacing could make heel-toe physically harder or at least remove any team-specific tweaks that help Shane Van Gisbergen. The second theory is going fully sequential and killing the clutch entirely on road courses. The next-gen car already uses a sequential-style gearbox. NASCAR could push that further toward a paddle shift setup that requires no clutch input after launch. If Shane Van Gisbergen cannot use the clutch in the middle of a corner, the rear tire protection trick disappears. The third theory is the most extreme option, which is to change the differential. Shane Van Gisbergen himself pointed at the diff as the root of the whole technique. In supercars, the locked diff forced it. In the Cup car, the open diff makes it optional. Adjust the differential specification and you adjust the entire equation. Not everyone in the sport wants any of this to happen. There is a genuine counter-argument. What Shane Van Gisbergen does is the old way of racing, full of manual feel and craftsmanship. A direct connection to how stock cars were driven before the modern computer game era of motorsport. To many longtime followers, banning it would feel like banning craftsmanship itself. There is also a broader point about dominance. The sport reveres drivers like Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, and Bill Elliott precisely because they were untouchable in their primes. That kind of dominance builds mystique, and a fair argument exists that it should be celebrated rather than legislated out of existence. So what happens next? There are two clear scenarios. In the first scenario, NASCAR leaves the rulebook alone. Shane Van Gisbergen keeps winning road courses at a remarkable rate until the field develops a generation of young drivers who grow up with the technique already built into their instincts. The clearest candidate is Connor Zeilish, the 19-year-old Trackhouse racing rookie whose background includes karting and Trans Am racing. Connor Zeilish has already beaten Shane Van Gisbergen head-to-head in the O'Reilly Series, though not yet in the Cup car, and he posted a career-best 7th-place finish at Sonoma in 2026. He is the canary in the coal mine. In the second scenario, NASCAR acts. The pedal box gets standardized, clutch use gets restricted, and the advantage is legislated away. Shane Van Gisbergen would then be forced to learn left foot braking properly, which is notable because he has already been working on it. He started practicing left foot braking last year in a rally car. Either way, one outcome is already certain. The driver from Auckland has dragged a forgotten art back into the spotlight of America's biggest racing series and forced NASCAR to look hard at its own rulebook. Two-time Cup champion Kyle Busch summed up the field's helplessness when he said, "If I tried to learn what he's doing, it would take me until I retire." And as fellow road racer AJ Allmendinger put it about Shane Van Gisbergen's tire management, he knows how to manage that better than anybody so far. So here is the question worth your comment. Should NASCAR change the rules to level the field, or should they leave it alone and let the talent win out? Type level it if you believe they should regulate it. Type let him cook if you think talent should win out. And if you want the proper technical breakdown when the next road course arrives, make sure you are subscribed, because this is where the technical truth lives, not the recycled press release fluff.